cool. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. My name is Andre, and this is Two LPs in a Pod, which is a recurring podcast and hopefully a video cast this time, where I'm joined by my longtime friend Shawn, and we talk about two albums. But not just any two albums. How we arrive at them is that we have a central theme that we come back to each other with to match. And this episode's theme is two one-person projects. So, Shawn, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, and I'm really excited for this episode because I'm secretly using this album that I chose as a way to plug some of my own music. So the listeners are going to get a bonus here. But yeah, I'm excited about this, and it turned out to be one-woman projects on both of our choices.
That is true also, yes.
Now we can, if we want, we could do a one-man show, one-man projects next time or whatever. But we just coincidentally each chose female artists here. And as usual, like, I know the focus of this show is to kind of, for us to go out of our comfort zone, but with this one I picked something that really had a special meaning to me already, but revisiting it was quite rewarding. So
that's cool. I actually did want to, well, you kind of answered it right away, but I think you, in our like sheet of all of the topics we can go over, I think you added one person project. Is that like something that, I know that last time we did one album wonders, and you thought that was a really interesting topic. Is there something about this that like you specifically find interesting?
Yeah, I did have actually a different artist in mind when I came up with one person projects. There's this band called Self who I really love, and they started out as a band, and they have this like kind of story to them where they ended up it ended up just kind of being one guy. So I thought I was going to pick Self and pick one of their albums that I haven't heard yet to kind of introduce you and our listeners to that group / single person. But I took the opportunity to kind of change course at the last minute because my album was coming, my EP that I made was coming out, and I thought I could plug my EP because the album that I'm choosing for this episode was the inspiration for me getting back into music, and it was really important to me. So, and it's a great album.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That is pretty interesting.
Yep, we'll get into that when we get to my choice, but yours is first. So if you're ready, unless you got any other small talk, I'm ready
no, I mean, one-person projects, they definitely, I mean, they're literally DIY, so they definitely lend themselves to like an indie kind of, maybe not necessarily indie, but independent, kind of vibe. So I definitely dig the topic.
Yeah, I would think, I can't think of too many examples from like back in the day, but I know there are. Like, wasn't I think Nebraska by Bruce Springsteen, wasn't that just him with an acoustic guitar? There's
I haven't heard every Bruce Springsteen album. But
yeah, I think that one.
I know he went more Americana eventually.
Yeah, but I agree. I think nowadays with home recording, and even if you think about like the Foo Fighters, like got started with Dave Grohl making tapes of his songs where he played every instrument. So yeah, there's a lot of examples of it. And we talked about Tame Impala last time.
Oh yeah, that little story.
But yeah, there's just a lot of artists like that nowadays, because really all you need is, I was going to say all you need is a computer, but man, you can make an album on a phone now. So
yeah. People have done that as well. People have done that with full bands.
yeah, exactly. So technology is making this one-person projects a lot more prevalent.
All right. Well, I will kick us off. My album is first on the little breakdown sheet. I have chosen an album by an artist that is very fond of me, Ichiko Aoba. I cannot speak Japanese, so we're gonna have trouble with these album titles and names. But I believe it is Kamisori otome. It means like razor maiden or razor girl in English, apparently.
Yeah.
And it is her debut album, released in 2010 on Tone & Co., I guess is the label. It's a short project. It's only like 26 minutes, but it is in a couple places labeled as a studio LP. And I've seen studio LPs of similar length, so I won't discredit her. But it is a one-person project. It is it's folk music, but it's also very classical. Like Ichiko takes a very classical approach to her guitar playing. A bit of a tangent, but I like that with the one-person project, we both went in different directions. Whereas my artist is more, like natural, and yours is more synthetic. We'll get to that soon, of course. But I just love that with Ichiko, she just does vocals and acoustic guitar. Like that's like the most tried and true combo ever, right? Like you've heard that combination like a million times, but somehow she still manages to make it unique. Like I don't hear a lot of artists that take this classical approach to the sound. So there's definitely a lot of studying involved with what she's trying to do and like her songwriting. And then on top of that, she just has an incredible voice. It's so beautiful. It's so like relaxing. And she can throw down on the guitar too. She's a really good guitar player. What did you think about the album?
Yeah, that was actually so I listened to this album a few, probably 2 months ago when we locked in this topic, and I really liked it. But reviewing it recently, though, I have an even greater appreciation for it because I've been getting back into guitar lately. So I think our viewers will notice, you can't see it yet, but on the video here, I have strategically placed one of my new guitars in the background to make the video dressing a little bit better. But I've been really, really getting back into guitar in a big way and just practicing and doing drills all day and trying to learn theory. My history with guitar is I've been playing 2-finger power chords since I was a teenager, and I've never advanced beyond that. So listening to this album in the past couple of days, I like got a whole different experience out of it because you're right. She's a monster on that acoustic, man. It is serious. And on top of that, she's a lovely singer. So it's a deceptively simple album, but on repeat listens, you can really absorb what she's doing with the guitar, and she's phenomenal. So yeah, I mean, on right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, I love this. This was a good choice for your pick.
Dang, I think that's my first out of three opportunities to convert you into a really good album.
Yeah.
She's great. I highly recommend checking out more of her work. She has several other albums that are similar, like her just playing acoustic guitar. But not all of them are strictly one person. Like I think other of the albums have some more production credits and even writing credits. And then her most, I think, recent studio album from a couple of years ago, Windswept Aiden, is like a full, like it's like orchestral. Like she has like strings and like flutes and like all this other stuff. So she's awesome, man. I definitely recommend deep diving that album. Deep diving her discography.
I think I listened to a little bit of it when we first made the choices here, and I might have even listened to an entirety of one of her other albums as well, just because I was getting into it. But I do think there's something to be said for this album in particular because it's her first, and because there are no that I can tell or that I remember, there are no like overdubs. The singing is very naturalistic. There's no, like you said, there's no drums, there's no bass. It's just her and a guitar. And if there are any overdubs, they're super subtle and not like there's no vocal harmonies. It's just a single track, or at least it seems to be.
Yeah, she was 19 when she released this album, man. We've dropped through the course of this show, we've highlighted a couple of youngsters dropping like albums.
Yeah, that's true. Like Willis Allen Ramsey, I think you're referring to.
Yeah.
He's 20, 21. Yeah.
The other person, I already forget. Capital Sneeze, he dropped his debut when he was like 18 or something. So it's unintentionally, we've done quite a few debut albums.
Yeah. So how did you hear about this artist?
That's a good question. Oh, we should include that in the template or something. I don't honestly remember I had known about Ichiko Aoba for like a short while before I listened to her. And then I believe pandemic year, like 2020, it just happened to be when I listened to one of her albums. She had a live album. She has quite a few live albums, actually. I recommend those too.
Yeah.
And I listened to that, and I thought it was pretty cool. I was off to the races after that. Like, she has quite a few albums. She has a few collab albums as well. Her discography is really a joy to get into. And I mean, if you like one album, there's no reason you won't like the rest of the albums. I guess for some people, like, I like a lot of folk artists, and some people, like, sometimes the complaint is the music is a little boring, or like it puts you to sleep. I think in the right context, that's a good thing, right? Like, we all need good sleep, you know? Like, if an album lullabies you to sleep, that's a bonus in my mind.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily like I use music in a lot of different contexts. So, yeah, it could put you to sleep. It does have a lullaby type quality, but it's also good music to like have dinner to, or I mean, I listen to it when working. I listen to all my music when I work because I listen to music all day. I work on a laptop, so I know I spun this a few times while working. It didn't like put me to sleep while I was trying to get the job done. But yeah, there's a place for mellow music, and I could picture this. You know, my wife and I went to a restaurant a couple of weeks ago, and there were these two dudes playing just like jazzy light guitar, no vocals, but just, you know, playing some live background music. And I could see something like this being played in that setting, just, you know, in a nice like dinner, candlelit dinner kind of setting. Now, I want to ask too, in this album, we should mention the lyrics are all in Japanese. Are all of her entire body of work, is it all Japanese that you know of? Yes.
Okay. She speaks like, thanks for bringing that up too. She speaks like English sometimes, and like some of her, like her last album is in, like, the title is in English, so she acknowledges the English language at the very least. But most of it is in Japanese. I haven't, like, I guess I would have to like sit side by side with the lyrics in English to fully absorb the album, but I don't do that too often. And in doing this little show that we have, you know, there's a bit of research to like find out about the artist so that we can be prepared. It's definitely tougher to do that when the artist is like a native Japanese speaker, and you know, like most of her fan base is Japanese as well.
Yeah, and sometimes I'm the same way. And we didn't talk about, in general, like listening to music that's in a different language. Like even when we talked about Bernholz and those other artists, do you tend to like music that's not in? And you only speak English, right? You know a little Chinese, or?
No, not really, man.
Okay.
If anything, I might know more Japanese than Chinese.
Right. Okay. Same, but not for the same reasons, probably. I like music that's in other languages, and one funny thing I heard once was that it's great to listen to music that's in a different language because you'll never know how stupid the lyrics are.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. So, I tend to like it, and I rarely look up what a song is about. I can think of a few examples where, like, I really like the group Yell. They're a French, like,
you told
trio.
me about them a long time ago.
And they have a few songs that I'm like, this song is so damn good. I need to know what it's about, and that actually has turned out to be somewhat rewarding from time to time because their lyrics, I mean, they have songs about dancing and boys and all this stuff, but then they have a song about that turned out to be like the end of the world, and it's like this apocalyptic song about the sun burning out. So I was like, hell yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, there's always something beneath the surface that can take you to different places beyond just, oh, this is a pleasant song. This young lady really knows how to sing and play guitar, doesn't she? I don't know what she's saying, but it's great, you know. So
with music in different languages, what tends to happen is that because you don't understand the other language, it almost like the vocals become another instrument.
yeah,
Like they separate themselves from English vocals, where you're like actually understanding what's being said. So I love international music. You can get me on a whole tangent, man. Like when we were, dude, back in our like Pound days, when we would be music nerds and talk about like, oh, like Jimi Hendrix, Pink Floyd, like these are the greatest artists of all time. Like all those conversations were only English artists, right? Because like all of the discourse that we consumed was just I guess was naturally just English because that was the language we spoke. But like Ichiko Aoba is great. Like there's so many countries out there that have like such wonderful music for us to discover. And with the advent of, internet music streaming, it's so easy to just kind of like deep dive and find like the Pink Floyd or the Jimi Hendrix of like Brazil or of Japan or like of all these other, countries. It's awesome.
Exactly. So before I go, I was going to say something, but I want to pause for 1 second and explain what the Pound days are.
Oh, okay.
Many of the listeners are like, what the hell? Andre and I used to work together at an animal pound. That's what he's referring to. And we used to debate music all the time, which has led through the years to this. Now we're not quite debating because those debates were so stupid. But now
we didn't always debate. Sometimes we just talked about music.
Yeah,
that's fun.
I mean, nerding out on how cool shit is always good to do. What was I going to say though? It was about like finding the Jimi Hendrix of Brazil or something like that. I've actually been doing. I know you don't have Twitter, and I'm only doing this on Twitter, but I'm doing that like album a day challenge that people sometimes do.
You used to do that with like movies or whatever.
Yeah, I did that for a long time with movies, but I started in March, so I've been doing it for about 3 months.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm up to almost 150 albums where I'm listening to an album I've never heard from front to back, at least one per day.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is just finding almost random, but like using the Spotify algorithm to find stuff like related artists, or just typing in random stuff and seeing what comes up that catches my eye. And yeah, I've found some really good international artists that way, because sometimes the algorithm isn't going to push those to you if all you're listening to is Boomer Rock or the Foo Fighters, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's a good way to kind of dig a little deeper.
But I would algorithms, this is a whole different thing. They're going to only recommend music that's similar to what you're already listening to, so you definitely have to put in a little bit of effort to go outside your comfort zone, which is always worth it with music. You could always use like RYM or something to find some international music if you're curious about it. It's just lists. It's so easy.
Yeah, I prefer besteveralbums.com, but I go on RYM.
Whoa, what's that? I've never heard of that.
It's kind of the same thing. I just like the way it's laid out, and you can also, I don't know if they're algorithmic, but you don't sign into it, and they have a random album button, so you can just keep clicking it and.
Dude, I'm gonna check this out after this call. Any kind of like site like this is like my jam.
Oh yeah, you would like this one. I actually use it when on my other podcast we sometimes do albums of a year. Like, so we'll say, okay, top 10 albums of 1983, and that website has rankings of the top 1,000 albums from around the world from every single year. So that's a good way to find new stuff.
I'm already seeing on the best artists ever that number 1 is the Beatles, number 2 is Radiohead, number 3 is Pink Floyd. This is definitely the RYM crowd.
Yeah, it's definitely the internet
music nerd crowd. Yeah,
exactly.
But thank you for the rec.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're going off on a tangent, and I think
I have nothing else to say about Ichiko Aoba. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I think this is great because it's kind of one of the themes of why we're doing this show, and it's just to get people, including ourselves, to branch out and open our minds. And I really, the more I think about it and the more I have listened to new music in the past year and in the past couple of years in general, there's this kind of what's the word? Platitude isn't the right word, but there's this concept or idea that goes around there that you only really absorb music when you're a teenager, and that's why we're so nostalgic about music. And the music that you listen to in your formative years will stay with you forever, but nothing else will. I think that is so not true, especially as I'm listening to...
It can be, man. It can be.
I think it might be for people who are just completely not musically minded, but those kind of people are few and far between. I've only known a few people in my entire life who have said, I just don't like music. I don't enjoy it. I'm not into it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And I've heard people, I know people, friends of mine who say, hey, I used to be like that until I heard heavy metal for the first time. And now I'm a huge, or, it could be anything, but that's just an example of one friend of mine. So, like, I think, honestly, everybody has a gift to enjoy music. You just have to find what speaks to you. And
I would hope so, yeah. And
it doesn't necessarily have to be, whatever you heard when you were 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. I've heard albums in the past like 2 or 3 months that I just could not stop listening to, and that I'm still listening to, So, and I know you go through the same kind of thing. So, yeah, that's what it's all about.
Dude, it is. I was hanging out with some friends recently, and we were watching TV, like trashy reality TV, and they're like my age. They're like, I don't really want to watch new stuff anymore. Like they were basically saying what you were saying about music, but with TV, and that made me sad. I was like, we weren't talking about music, but I'm like, come on, like consuming like, I don't know, like that's just like a fun thing, right? Like, don't you want to like hear new things, see new things, like try out new things? So maybe I'll reach that point with like other mediums of art, but definitely not with music, man. Like that's like my lifeblood, is like finding new music.
Yeah, same. And I'm more and more like that every day, all the time.
Do you have anything else to say about Ichiko Aoba? Because your recommendation also pushed me outside my comfort zone a bit, and I'm happy to talk about that.
Awesome. No, I would put a bow on this first album just by reiterating how much I loved it.
My first A assignment that I've turned in.
Yeah, that was great, man. All right, so let's move on to album number 2, which is my choice. It is Unflesh by Gazelle Twin, which came out in 2014. Gazelle Twin is the stage name or pseudonym or pen name for Elizabeth Bernholz, who is a artist from the UK, and she created this album entirely by herself in Ableton and had some production help with it after the fact and mastering and all that stuff, but it's basically her own project. And I found out about this album. I want to shout out, I don't know if you know Val from Sets and the CD YouTube channel.
No, I don't.
But I got to shout her out. I'm not like friends with her or anything, but I've interacted with her on Twitter. We follow each other, and she's really cool. Her YouTube channel is amazing, and she did this series. I think it was 2 or maybe 3 videos of disturbing albums, like a disturbing album's iceberg kind of thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I listened to almost every one. Like some of them you can't find. Some of them are obviously not on Spotify, or they're so obscure they're hard to find. But I listened to so much of what she had in those videos. And when I heard this album by Gazelle Twin, I was just blown away by it. I was really floored by the production. And when I first heard it, of course, I didn't I shouldn't say this because I don't know if the YouTube video mentioned that it was a one-person project. So, but I don't remember knowing that when I first listened to this. I thought it was just like a really cool industrial kind of electronic album. Yeah, exactly. And no, it turns out like she made the whole thing in her house. And what this led to, I'll segue into plugging my own stuff, and I won't spend a lot of time on this except for when I talk about all the stuff I stole from this album. Is when I found out that she made this album on her own and it's so good, I was like, I think I can do something like this, and not in a sense
That's
of
awesome.
Yeah, it really was like, it really set me back onto like I can do songwriting, because I've always been in punk and power pop kind of groups. Like I said, I only ever knew how to play 2-finger power chords on the guitar. That's the only mode of songwriting and performance I've ever been involved in. But I thought, wow, I haven't looked at home recording technology for a very, very long time. And, so I did some research and figured out what DAW to use and all this stuff. And I ended up making my own EP in Reaper, which I mixed and mastered and performed and wrote all the songs and all this stuff myself. And that is called Wing Diver, and that is available on Spotify and all, most of the other major streaming platforms, and also at wingdiver.com. So
go listen to it. Sorry, I'll interject. Usually I think the YouTube videos, I link to Annoying Customer because that was the recorded music I had available. I guess I should start linking to Winddiver too.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Annoying Customer, I love. If anybody ever listens to that too, that's great. Like those are songs I'm really proud of and have great memories of.
Definitely a lot of power chords.
Yeah, only power chords. But that brings up one of the great things about working in a DAW is you can do anything. Like the songs that I wrote for Wing Diver, I could not perform live, like because I used MIDI. I set up all the chords manually, so it really opened and expanded my capabilities in a way that was very rewarding. So enough about me, though. Let's talk about Gazelle Twin, Unflesh. Like I said, it is a dark, you could call it disturbing. Definitely some of the lyrical content is that way, and some of the music is really dark. It's like a dark, synthy, industrial kind of feel. So what was your first impression here, Andre?
I like this album as well, so this is a good episode in terms of recommendations for us.
Nice.
I was looking on the RYM for this album, and I did see a lot of people describing it as being like unsettling or disturbing or creepy, and I could definitely see that, but it's funny, it didn't really hit me that way, the first time I listened to it, maybe just because I listened to a lot of artsy fartsy stuff, but what I took away was that it's actually kind of it's kind of fun. It's electronic more than industrial, but like my favorite song, Exorcise, it's got this like looping synth melody. Like I wouldn't say it's like danceable necessarily, but it's kind of energetic. Like I definitely like this album, and industrial music can be very hit or miss for me. Like there are industrial albums that I like, but I don't know, like sometimes I think it's just too noisy for its own good unnecessarily, but this album is not that noisy. Like it's definitely more subdued. The industrial qualities are more like tone setting than just being like hitting you in the face. But I liked it, and it's definitely kind of like a creepy, even kind of dreamy album.
Yeah. Good. You mentioned Exercise, which is one of my favorites as well. Did that song remind you of anything in particular?
Did it remind me? Are you gonna say "On the Run" by Pink Floyd?
Yes, yeah. I think that's an obvious.
I didn't think about that
comparison.
until right now.
Yeah, the arpeggiating synth in that song is really reminiscent in a good way.
The third song on their albums as well.
Interesting. Now I've watched a few interviews with her, and I didn't see that come up at all. And then another note that I made, I actually wrote a review of this album for rfgeneration.com 2 years ago, and I'm looking at it right now for some notes. But there's another song that had kind of a, where the heck is it? Oh, it's Antibody, which I wrote. Antibody has a beat that could be called a deconstruction of Metallica's One.
Oh, really?
Do you think so? Because if you think about Metallica's Run, the
oh wait, it's that. Yes, I think I remember that song off this album.
Yeah.
I could say that. I mean, I think maybe that's a bit more universal than just one song. But I mean, this album certainly has a lot of influences. I'll give it that.
Yeah, I think my other most favorite song is "Belly of the Beast."
I think that's the most popular one. Yeah, I do like that.
Is it? Okay. And notably in that song, she samples a checkout register from a grocery store.
Oh, that's cool.
It starts with some random like ambient sounds from a grocery store, and you can hear this beep, beep. And I think it's like a fifth interval or a seventh. I can't remember, but it's like musically correct, the beep, beep.
Oh,
and
really?
This is one of the things I stole from her. And if you listen to Wing Diver, I really liberally sprinkled this technique into like a few of the songs where you can hear just beep, beep, like kind of within the song. But she does it better because she took a real world sound that is evocative of, consumerism or whatever you want to say. But it just, to me, it gives me this almost nostalgic feeling because my first ever job was working in a grocery store, and I did it for a long time. So I enjoy that song. And the synth in that song is particularly dark and rumbly and good. So yeah, that's definitely a good one.
To go back to what I said a bit earlier, almost at the beginning, I like how we took these two different directions with, one person project. You could kind of easily see how both of these could become one person projects, but one of them you have to physically do everything yourself, and then with Unflesh and Gazelle Twin, you have the technology to do a lot of things by yourself. I was actually intrigued when you recommended this album. I had heard of Gazelle Twin before, but I'd never listened to her, so this is my introduction, and I definitely want to listen to more. But one of my first instincts was, oh, this is a one-person project? I should see how she performs live. And I have seen when she performs live, she has like a DJ producer on stage as well, and then she's singing.
Yep. Yeah, and I have tried to get into some of her other albums, and I just haven't enjoyed them nearly as much as this one. So that was kind of that's been an interesting experience, and it's fine with me. There's some bands where I just only like one of their albums. So
she definitely strikes me as an artist that's going to try a lot of different things. So I could totally understand if her other albums go into different directions that you just don't happen to like as much.
Yeah. So one of the things that kind of falls into, what makes this album so disturbing is not just sonically, like how it sounds, but some of the lyrical content.
I didn't actually look up any of that. You got to educate me real quick.
Well, it's interesting because I can
look it up right now.
I can sense that there's some trauma. Like, these lyrics are pretty painful, and it's hard to suss out because in interviews she doesn't say specific, unless she does, and I haven't seen it. But I watched a few interviews with her, and she doesn't specifically say like, "Oh, this is about such and such abuse" or whatever. And of course, she has a right to not disclose any of that stuff. Like in a certain sense, I don't particularly want to know. The music can speak for itself. But like the one song that says, "Don't know how to feel when you want to see all the pain you cause to your family."
Okay.
Like there's things like that. That's like that didn't come out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I don't know. Like to me, that's, I don't know why I I think I can kind of relate. Like I don't want to get into it, but I didn't have the most wonderful upbringing. So when I hear these lyrics like this that reflect trauma, it serves a purpose of being relatable, you know? So, and I don't know how you felt about that.
I'm not done listening to this album. I still have a couple more listens to go, and I haven't dug too deeply into the lyrics, so I definitely will do that on my last few listens. So unfortunately, I don't have too much to provide in terms of the lyrics being disturbing, but I saw online on RYM that a lot of people found the album cover disturbing as well.
Yeah.
Which
yeah,
I actually go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to talk about like the kind of persona that was created with that album cover with the blue hoodie and stuff, but explain what it what it is beyond just the blue hoodie.
Well, visually, you will, if you're listening to this episode, you will see it on YouTube or Spotify, the logo, true. I think. But actually not on Spotify, but whatever. The album, you should definitely listen to it because it's cool. And then by doing that, you will see the album cover, which is a woman wearing a blue hoodie, except her face is like horror movie melted and like what's the, like Indiana Jones and like the Raiders of the Lost Ark or whatever, like when the faces melt, it's kind of like that.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you took that from it because I just see it as meat, and I think that's what she was going for.
I actually don't think this album cover, like you told me to listen to the Fever Ray album recently, and I thought that album cover was a little bit more disturbing than this. For some reason.
That's a great comparison. Like they're to me they're on the same level for different reasons, but I love that comparison. So for anybody who's listening, that the Fever Ray album that came out in 2023, Radical Romantics or Romantics Radical, I can't remember the exact title, but
Romantics.
Yeah. Another great album with like a dark synth tone to it, but just completely different, like a completely different performance and vibe. But I love that album as well. And you're right, talking about like off-putting.
That one is way creepier to me. Just like that that whole makeup setup is very strange.
Yeah. But to kind of spin off of the actual cover itself, this character with the blue hoodie appears in all, if I'm not mistaken, of the music videos for this album. Have you watched any of those?
No, I haven't.
Okay, that's
a good. Right now, looking through the lyrics too, and clicking through the individual songs. Some of them are singles, and the blue hoodie individual appears in different artworks as well.
Yep,
for like different singles.
And in the music videos, which are worth checking out, that blue hoodie motif is pretty prevalent, and the characters wear like a nylon mask that kind of blanks out their faces, so it adds to the creepy factor. Like if you think the album cover is creepy, wait till you see the videos.
Dang, you could almost you could cosplay as this, I guess.
Oh yeah, dude, that's a great idea.
All right, well, I don't think I have anything else to add. Both albums today were awesome. If you're listening, you should also listen to both albums. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, this is a good one. Gazelle Twin Unflesh. Check it out. Wingdiver.com or Wingdiver.
Check that out as well, yes.
On Spotify. But yeah, this was a great topic. And are we going to do dance pop next time? Because that was kind of
I recommended my artist to you already. I don't know if you remember, but I don't think you've given me your recommendation yet.
Yep, I haven't chosen anything. For this one, dance pop is one of my favorite genres, so I'm definitely going to make sure this time to pick something that I've never heard before. I might even try to find an artist I've never heard before.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's interesting.
yeah. So that'll
Nice,
be good.
man. Hopefully we can come at you guys with that in less than 3 months this time. I'll try my best.
That's all good.
All right. Well, if that's all you got, man. Yeah.
That's it. Let's wrap it up.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode, enjoyed our recommendations, discussion. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. And, let us know if you have any other recommendations on topics or albums or whatever. All right. Peace.
Cool.